Time for our fast break mini episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast. And don't forget to tell someone to tell somebody else to join. A win is a win. And don't forget you can catch us on iHeartRadio. You can catch us on Apple Podcast, and you can catch us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. Today, we are going to dive deep into mental health. And a lot of times, we hear stories about athletes, and, some commit suicide or some are going through a rough time, but we never really understand why. But today, we're going to take a quick time out for something just as important as the sport. And as much as physical fitness and skill are crucial in sports, your mental health can be the game changer in life. Excuse me. Now, whether you're an athlete or a coach or just someone trying to get through the day, mental health really, really does matter. It's not just about dealing with the stress parts or the anxiety, which we all have at times. It's about thriving, it's about being able to live fully. Now, today we're going to explore some statistics around mental health and pretty much understand why it's so often overlooked. And most importantly, where you can turn for help if you or someone you know needs it. Now, excuse me, whether you're a sports fan or not, and that's okay too. You don't have to be a sports fan for this to stick. This is for all of us. Now, let's take a look at some of these statistics. Okay, let's start with the facts. Now, did you know that 1 in 5 adults in the US experience some form of mental illness each year? Yep, that's 20% of the population, meaning someone you know, maybe even yourself, has likely been impacted by a couple of these things: anxiety, depression, or other mental health challenges. Yet, despite this, many people are hesitant to get help because of the stigma surrounding mental health. Now, let's go on to the sports side of things and look at the athletes. Now, for athletes, the numbers are just as concerning. Now, if you look at about 35% of elite athletes experience mental health issues like stress, burnout, or depression. And we have seen and heard stories, and sometimes we forget they're human too. Now, that's more than a third of people who are supposed to be in peak physical condition feeling overwhelmed. And you wouldn't think so, right? Because they're playing at the highest level. And if they're struggling under the pressure of performance, imagine regular folks just like us and what we go through in our daily grind. Now, the youth are also significantly affected. Now, when we think about this, depression is now one of the leading causes of illness and disability among adolescents globally in the world. Now, this generation faces immense pressure from, obviously, the leading factor, social media. Then we go over to schools and just figuring out simply who they are in a constantly connected world. In the COVID-19 pandemic, it really didn't make things easier if you think about it. Now, according to the CDC, prevalence of anxiety or depressive symptoms increased to nearly 40% of the U.S. population by mid 2020, and it's continued to stay high. Now, the conversation around mental health has grown a lot since then. Think about it. We're in a house we can't leave. We're stuck with people or doing things that we don't normally do. And The conversation is a good thing, but there's still a lot to be done and a long way to go. Now, what is the personal impact of mental health? Now, the reality is mental health issues don't look the same for everyone. Now, for some, it might be trouble sleeping or concentrating. For others, it can be a constant feeling of sadness, anger, emptiness, and in some cases, it can lead to burnout, especially for those who push themselves hard in sports or work. Now, let's take a moment to talk about athletes like Naomi Osaka and Simone Biles, who bravely spoken out about their struggles with mental health. And when they spoke out, people judged them. What do you mean you can't play? You're at the top of your game. These women at the top of their game decided to prioritize their well being over their careers, choosing to step back rather than to push through. It wasn't an easy decision, but they did it to protect themselves. Now, that sends a powerful message. If they can put their mental health first, so can we. It's a reminder that even those who seem to have it all together can also face struggles. Mental health isn't always visible, and that's part of what makes it so difficult to talk about. But when someone, and you think about it, successful as Simone Biles admits she's having a really, really hard time, it helps break the stigma. It's okay not to be okay. Now, how and where to get help? If you're feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or just not yourself, it's crucial to know that help is available. And you don't have to go through it alone. Talk to someone. Tell somebody, I'm not okay. And here's a few resources to consider. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. This is available 24/7 at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255, or simply dial 988. They offer free confidential support. Now you have the crisis text line. And if you're not up for talking, that's okay. You can text HOME, HOME, to 741-741, and a trained crisis counselor will text you back. There are also therapy apps like BetterHelp or Talkspace can connect you to licensed therapists from the comfort of your home. And that's also a great option if you're not comfortable with in-person therapy just yet. You have mindfulness apps like Headspace and Calm. And Calm is clutch for me. I use that a lot because my days are very busy and I'm all over the place between work and other appointments. It calms you down. You can listen to stories that decompress. And these are also good for managing stress on a daily basis. They offer guided meditation, breathing exercises, and stress relief techniques that can help you as well. If you feel like it's time to talk to a professional, there's no shame in reaching out to a therapist. You can check out directories like Psychology Today, which helps you find a therapist in your area, or look into telehealth services for a more flexible approach. On the back of your insurance card, you can call your insurance and tell them you need mental health services. And if therapy isn't an option, reaching out to a trusted friend, family member, or even your doctor can make all the difference. Sometimes, just sometimes, talking about what's on your mind can lift the weight off your shoulders. So, as I bring this mini episode to a close, remember that mental health is health. We take care of our bodies, so we need to take care of our minds as well. There's no shame in needing help. And if there's strength in seeking it, then ask, talk, and seek. If you're someone you know is struggling, don't wait. There is help available, and there's always a way forward. You've got people who care and resources to support you. Please take this episode as a time to look within yourself. And remember, this podcast is called A Win is a Win, not just in sports, but in life.